Last night I rewatched The Royal Tenenbaums, and I've seen it probably like 10 times, but this is the time I could confidently say it's my favorite Wes Anderson movie. I went into my top 100 list and I moved it up from like spot 50 to like spot 20 because I'm like, yeah, no shit. This is a movie. Every time I rewatch it, it just hits me so hard, and it's so funny and entertaining. And for me, it marks a perfect midpoint for Wes Anderson's like style and career, even though it falls very early on in his career. And I also just rewatched Bottle Rocket, which is Wes Anderson's first movie, and it definitely is a great reference point because Bottle Rocket is such a grounded human story, and he hadn't quite found his style yet, the signature perpendicular, parallel, symmetrical Wes Anderson style. Bottle Rocket is shot pretty well traditionally. It's shot really well, and I like how it's shot, but it's not shot like a Wes Anderson movie per se. And, but you do get hints of the themes and characters he'll be interested in, because I always say Wes Anderson's strongest suit is his writing, and his best movies have phenomenal writing, and I think the style only complements the phenomenal writing in his best movies. It's not a style above substance thing like it has become, I think, in his later movies. But Royal Tenenbaums is such a special movie because of that. I think it's still hyper fixated on character first, character, dialogue, story, and to me it has some of the best characters ever, you know? I said in my Letterboxd review, I said if I were to make a top characters of all time list for me, like movie characters, I might just have 10 characters from Royal Tenenbaums. I think the whole main cast is so great, and I think a huge part of that is the movie gives you so much time to empathize and understand and forgive each character. You know, it's very empathetic, even towards Royal, obviously, because he's the main guy, but I think Royal is like such a great redemption story. It's hard to think of a better redemption story in cinema because it's so realistic, because people don't put up with his bullshit. People aren't ready to forgive him just on the drop of a dime. He was an asshole his whole life, and he's paying for that, and he doesn't like take that personally that people are really shunning him. He understands that he kind of earned this. He's such a rich, interesting character, and apparently Gene Hackman was an asshole to work with, and my friend Cody pointed out, he said, like, what an amazing performance to give even though you're hating acting. You know, like he's gonna stop his career. This is one of his last movies, and he's just miserable the whole time, and yet on screen you don't see any of that. So it's kind of a miracle that it turned out as good as it did, but he's one of my favorite movie characters of all time. And I just think this is a case where style uplifts the substance so much. It's like he's finding all these quirks he likes. He's finding the symmetrical shots, the close-ups on objects, the title cards, the chapter cards, and the narrator. All of that just plays so well into one another to give it this storybook feel that is beyond life without taking it beyond life, because it's still very much about life and characters and people. And I think as Wes Anderson's career went on, you know, he's always been ripe for parody, but I feel like he's almost become a self-parody. You know, I love Moonrise Kingdom, I love Grand Budapest, especially when they came out, I adored them, I still love them. But you definitely see him like, you know, his career is such an obvious substance to style transition, and I think like if this is if this is substance, then this is style. Royal Tenenbaums is here. Life Aquatic goes pretty far. Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest, and then freaking I think Isle of Dogs, French Dispatch breaks the scale. I think that's really when he kind of just fell head over heels into his style, and you know, he's good at it. He's exacting with it. He knows what he wants, and he can get that. But there's something that's lost in his later movies that isn't quite lost yet in his, I'd say, first 6 or so. I think where the Royal Tenenbaums succeeds is empathy. It has a lot of understanding and patience and forgiveness for its characters, even though we see them at their worst, their most self-destructive, their most asshole-ish, or rather their most son of a bitch-ish-ness. But It's a really special movie that just holds such a place in my heart because Wes Anderson is one of my favorite filmmakers, even though I do feel like I'm falling out of love with his newer stuff. But he's so good at observing people and giving everyone a fair shake. This is really a movie about that. It's about redemption. It's about understanding that people aren't defined by their lowest moments, their worst moments, and that anyone can be redeemed with a little patience for themselves as well as patience from others. And I think we all can hear that message and feel good about it. I think it's a very optimistic movie with a lot of really funny, gritty, realistic sort of moments and dialogue. Like the guy gets stabbed, they're in a cheap motel and this and that. Like it's not afraid to shy away from just like the sad part of human nature too, but it doesn't act like that's all there is. And I like depressing movies as much as anyone. Like a good one, not one that's just like woe is me, but one that's like woe is us, I guess. But Wes Anderson seems to have a really great midpoint here for everything. It's a midpoint of understanding for people, for life, for its characters, and a midpoint of style, as I've already talked your ear off about, and a midpoint of great writing with Owen Wilson. I think that's where I want to end off. I think Owen Wilson and Wes wrote Wes's three best, at least character-wise, his three best movies. And I think that's Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, and Royal Tenenbaums. I think those are so rich and grounded and interesting. And maybe when Owen Wilson stopped writing with him, he lost something. Maybe that writing dynamic partnership was more valuable than you could ever think, you know? And it's funny that Owen Wilson wrote these movies because he hasn't really written much since. But I'm curious how involved he was in that process because they're really special. So thank you, Owen Wilson, for your contributions to the Wes Anderson filmography. And I don't know, Asteroid City, like I said, it doesn't excite me that much. It's a little... It seems to be leaning so hard into these fantastical characters. You know, his old movies feel like almost documentaries. It feels like a very real story that a guy's just a quirky guy captured in a quirky way, but the characters and the struggles are all very real. And his newer stuff feels like his characters were born into this fantastical world. It feels like they were raised by fantastical characters in a fantastical world. Everybody's quirky and Wes Anderson-like, rather than this very real dynamic that used to happen between this real story hitting this quirky style to present something very new and exciting. I feel like you drown in the style when that's all there is. A bit, but I'm still optimistic. I'll go see it because I've loved enough of his movies that I'll see every movie. You know, that's how I get with filmmakers. And I watched Royal Tenenbaums with Trent. Trent didn't like it the first time, then he came around and loved it this time, which is fitting with my last video about rewatching movies, because sometimes a movie can surprise you, and even if you already know what's going to happen. And yeah, I love you guys. I love movies. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a nice day. Bye-bye.